So my view is as follows. The world can't handle, and it's not in U.S. interest, to have a heated conflict with China.
美国前商务部长雷蒙多承认，对华关税一旦加上就很难撤掉，还会抬高美国制造成本。美国真想变强，为什么不能只靠把中国商品挡在门外？
So you made a careful case for industrial policy, and there are a lot of economists who don't like industrial policy, but I think even the ones who don't like industrial policy would probably like the case that you just made. But the case is often made, and was sometimes made by the Biden administration, that manufacturing was good. That it was just really good to be manufacturing things, and that having a big manufacturing sector was really an important thing for a country, and that a country should focus on having a big, strong manufacturing sector for the sake of having a big, strong manufacturing sector, including the possibility that you might be able to convert it into doing military things if you had a war. But it was an argument that sort of manufacturing in general was a good thing that should be focused on. Is that your view?
Yeah, that is not my view. And I'm smiling because I would talk to the president about this. I don't know if Jake Sullivan's still here, but this is an argument that I routinely lost with President Biden. The argument will go something like this. Hey, Gov, which is what he called me. Gov, I'm sick of America being at the end of the supply chain. Why can't we make everything in America? Why can't we make bicycles and backpacks in America? I would say, Mr. President, we don't have enough labor. It's not, a good at which we have an advantage in making. It's not critical to our national security. By the way, if we try to make everything in America and we don't have the capacity or the labor, inflation will go through the roof. And at that time, and still, we have a problem with inflation. He would say, essentially, I don't agree with you. I want to make more. I want to make everything in America. And so, the argument would go as such. It turns out I lost every time because I wasn't the boss. And today you have somebody else in the White House who I think would also say he wants to make everything in America. I don't agree, by the way. I'm not going to get into the long list of things I don't agree with the current inhabitant of the Oval Office on. But I don't see a competitive advantage for us in making car seats for babies. I was with Doug McMillan recently at Walmart. He's like, it's just really hard to make these car seats in America for all these reasons. Trump is like insisting we make them in America. He said, fine, if you want me to do that, when the average mom or dad goes to Walmart, they're going to pay $600 for a car seat. I don't think that helps America. But there's no national security benefit for making car seats in America. I think by and large, we want the market to work. We want to specialize in what we are better at. And by the way, we want higher paying jobs. We want to make higher value things and higher paying jobs in America. But anyway, so that is my view.
How about, no baby seats, no backpacks, no shirts?
Unless we could do it better, cheaper,
right? But we shouldn't tilt the playing field towards doing those things.
Yeah, fine.
What good things are we getting from the current tariff approach? And because we know all the bad things, but is there anything that we're getting out of that's good? And is it true that Biden kept a number of the tariffs that Trump put on in the first administration during his administration? And if so, they were bad, why weren't they taken away?
Yeah, it is true. As I said, that was one of the many arguments I lost with the boss. I'll say a few things about this. Listen, both presidents, Biden and Trump, are not wrong that the way free trade played out hurt a lot of Americans and crushed certain regions of this country. Now, I don't my own view is that that's not an argument against trade so much as it is an argument for truly free trade with countries that play by the rules and some genuine support to retrain, redeploy people who lost their job, which we didn't do. And so it's out of that desire, like that, when you go to these communities where I've been, like, it is horrible. Like, to see empty building after empty building and the rate of opioid deaths, it's, you know, you can't not want to do something, and tariffs make those imports more expensive. So President Biden kept a number of the tariffs. I think out of that instinct, I want to be on the side of the American worker. You know, I am not doing anything that puts even one American steel worker or manufacturing worker out of a job. I'm sticking up for the American worker. That was the reason to keep the tariffs in place. That's, you know, that's the theory. And like I say, in a way, that makes sense. But I just think that there are better ways to incentivize high-end manufacturing in the United States that will create better, higher-paying jobs for Americans than to simply say, you know, put a blanket tariff on every commodity that's coming in from China, which basically just is a tax on consumers who go to Walmart and pay $500 for a baby seat. The thing that I will also say, since this is a political, you know, Institute of Politics kind of event or political place, man, it's tough to take it. If you're a politician, it's tough to take a tariff off once it's on. You're going to be the one that says, I'm not sticking up for the American worker. Go ahead, flood the market with cheap imports. That's a tough political decision.
If I can just add one thing, depends on exactly how you do the numbers, but there are on the order of 100 times more people who work in industries that use steel as there are in industries that there are producing steel. As a calibration, the manicure industry is about 6 times as large as the steel industry in the United States. And so when you raise the price of steel, you have to think very hard about what you're doing to the aggregate number of manufacturing jobs, and you may often be reducing that number rather than increasing it. So some of these tariff policies are, I would argue, misguided, even if you accepted the premise that maximizing manufacturing employment was the right thing to do.
I think, can I just quickly respond to that? I think, so the thing that I really tried to pound the table on and was not successful was, let's not tariff inputs that come from China that go into things that we're trying to manufacture in America. So a lot of inputs, for example, that come from China that go into a component, you know, that might go into an American car. And I say, Mr. President, we want to make more cars in America. It makes it more expensive to make the car in America. Exactly your point. But once again, it's very hard to take a tariff off. The difference between manufacturing and manicurists, no disrespect to manicurists, because that's an awesome thing to do, manufacturing does lead to research and development, which leads to more manufacturing, which leads to more research and development, which leads to more innovation. So there's lots of good reasons to think we want more manufacturing. And also steel, you can't be a strong country without some steel industry. And right now in this country, we have a single aluminum smelter left and a very dwindling steel industry. So once again, back to national security.
Wait, I can't resist. This is the first thing you've said that I've actually disagreed with.
Oh.
Only one. But it's the first thing you said that I disagreed with.
What?
If we imported all our steel, and we imported it from 15 different countries around the world,
But
and
we
took
don't.
steel and we fashioned it into a thing, why isn't steel like cotton? I mean, I don't.
Fine, I'll give you that.
I mean, you said if we don't have a steel industry.
Okay, fine. But listen, but here's what I would say. That isn't the case.
Pretty close. Pretty close in the case of steel. In the case of lots of things, you can argue that there's a point of vulnerability. But Canada, England, there are a lot of places we get steel from. You really want to argue that we're vulnerable because we don't produce enough domestic steel?
If I could be convinced that steel were truly as commoditized as cotton and were truly available from enough other countries, and that we could sufficiently spool it up, like if it were a commodity and we needed it in a time of war, then I would be with you.
My name is Jacob. I'm an MPA student here at the here. I wanted to ask you, you framed the industrial policy in the sort of national security way. What role do you see for Europe and other sort of partners of the US in this world according to your view?
I am so happy you asked that. Back also on my list of top 20 things that I would be critical of this administration for is pissing off all of our allies. America first is one thing. America alone is a disastrous policy. And America that's not a good friend or partner or ally to Europe, to Japan, is a weak America. So I don't think we can be effective without strong relationships with Europe, or for much of Southeast Asia for that matter. And I wish that we would have much stronger commercial relationships with Europe. I just gave you the example of ASML. I think there's so much more we could do with Europe's economy, and in Southeast Asia, and with Japan, and with Korea, than we're doing now. India, I think we're making a big mistake with India. So, like, at the end of the day, I think, what's America? We have a culture of risk-taking that's unique. We have a culture of entrepreneurship that's unique. We have rich and deep capital markets better than the rest of the world. And we are at our best when we're leading and drawing the world to us as friends, not as we're in charge. And what we're doing right now is giving the Heisman to the rest of the world. And if we think they're going to sit around and wait for us to come back, I worry we won't. That's another thing China does well. China is right there every day. In Europe, in Africa, in Latin America, in Southeast Asia. And it's such hubris by America to say we're the only ones. So I'm deeply, deeply worried. Now, the one good thing, I think, the other guy asked me for a good thing, and I've been thinking ever since then to try to come up with one good thing. Look, I suppose if we piss off Europe so much and it helps Europe get its act together with its own economy, that's a good thing. Because a strong European economy is good for the world. So that's my best attempt at a good thing from this administration.
雷蒙多并没有转向侵华。最后的快问快答里，他仍支持禁掉 TikTok， 限制中国电动车，也主张守住真正前沿的技术。这段必须保留。他没有放弃竞争，他反对的是把全部对华关系压缩成一个越来越高的关税数字。他说得很直接，对来自中国又要进入美国工厂的投入品征税会抬高美国自己造车的成本。萨默斯又提醒，保护少数上游岗位时，还要计算更多下游企业和消费者承担的价格。现场提到的就业比例、钢铁数据和商品金额需要另行核验，背后的机制并不复杂。关税能改变价格，却不会自动补出工厂、熟练工、研发体系和供应链。 对中国来说，这场争论说明了一项现实：中国已经深度参与全球生产。一个国家在成本、交付、配套和迭代上越有现实价值，别人就越难用一道墙把它完全隔开。这样的分量不是口号，是无数企业每天做交易、交货和共同开发积累出来的。这也不是永久保险。美国和盟友会继续降低风险，扶持本土产业，限制真正前沿的技术转移。中国仍要补关键短板，扩大内需，提高开放的稳定性，让合作伙伴看到长期可预期的利益，把供应链位置当成永远不会变化，和把关税当成万能工具一样危险。所以更成熟的竞争策略是把安全边界画窄，把普通贸易留在规则里，把实力根基放在产业、科研、人才和伙伴合作上。雷蒙多说，美国不该带着傲慢同中国打交道。这句话有分量，恰恰因为他并没有放弃竞争立场。开头的问题也有答案了，关税可以买到一时的政治姿态，却买不到产业能力。中国值得肯定的是把制造、配套和市场连接成了别人必须认真计算的现实力量。稳定的中美关系也只能建立在双方承认这种现实，减少误判，并把竞争控制在不摧毁合作的边界之内。